Boom, we are live, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us today. This is Tio and the Arcane Bear. We're going to be going over most things crypto, not all, but most. We're going to start by taking a look at Bitcoin's price, our favorite, our collateral layer leader. Yes, that's right, our money, ladies and gentlemen. Vastly different than a currency. Please denote that there is a difference. With that in mind, we're going to start directly on the 4 hour, where we like to please note, and do note, that we have been in the bull market for quite some time, and we're about halfway through. I usually connotate this with some type of joke because there is no way to tell exactly how far through the market by saying we're about 11/16ths the way through. Effectively, this bull market started way back here, or what feels like forever ago at least, in March. And for those of you that didn't know, that was when the pandemic was originally declared. From that day onwards, we've seen consistent and explosive growth continue along the table. One of the first and most important things to recognize and to always keep in your mind, warning, when you see panic, fear, blood in the streets of any kind, it's generally a time to accumulate more assets. Don't buy toilet paper, ladies and gentlemen. Buy things like Bitcoin. Now here we saw these nice sequence of trading ranges, which have grown into these two subsequent trading ranges, which we've been following for almost 2 months now. These have been significantly more volatile. There's been a lot more supply that has come into the market, and it has been chewed up by some of the world's biggest players day over day, even as that big supply is entered. So here we see our primary shakeout of the previous trading range and our new buying climax and what appears to be a primary breakout. Now, one of the things that we always want to look for is the health of the trading range. One of the indicators that can be unhealthy, which would be bearish, is if we saw a large amount of supply come in this final push-up. This, ladies and gentlemen, is known as, again, the law of effort versus result. The effort comes in as the amount of supply comes into the market, and the result is how high that price goes. Here you can see we were rising quite quickly on very limited supply, and even prior to that, yet again, rising quite quickly to limited supply coming into the market. Now, effectively, these big red supply markers are representing where the daily candle is generally showing that that day was mostly sell. That day was mostly sell, right? So you had a buying, but not enough to keep the day over day buying on the opposite side. So on the green days, it was the majority of it was buy pressure, not sell pressure. And here we've started our first kind of candle of sell. Now, a lot of people, the miners are selling Bitcoin and they're dumping the price, and well, of course they are. That's what a miner should do. It's their product. They mine stuff so they can sell it, so they can build a business and stay revenue positive. It's why all businesses try to function, generally speaking, other than those that are out there to do good in the world. And their main motive generally also is how to produce as much result for as least amount of effort. So we always want to look for this effort and result characteristic. Here right now, it does start to look like we're going to see a test. And we've seen that test right now come right into our previous top of the trading range from our buying climax and the primary support of that buying climax, effectively around 54 to 57,000. In schematic 3, which we've gone over a bunch, seems to be a pretty strong characteristic of Bitcoin right now. You can find, if you are a private member, by going to arcanebear.com and clicking on the den, which is where the members resource area is, and then going to the Wyckoff trading ranges. This schematic 3 for reaccumulation range is characterized by a movement through the box above phase C, as we saw in Bitcoin previously. Now here, it just looks like we're seeing a primary shakeout come in a little sooner. In the previous top of the trading range for this phase C, we actually just saw a very short and very volatile move up very quickly. Which is not super characteristic, but we can also see a potentially much larger frame by frame play come on. We're actually looking at, here's phase A over here. This would be phase A. Here's phase B. And here's phase C. So what I like to do is kind of make this conjecture. And if you've been following us for quite some time, you know that we love this part right here. I think what we were witnessing is a rising gradient bottom for a reaccumulation range that looks right now currently like 2 trading ranges, 2 horizontal trading ranges, but I believe it is one bigger reaccumulation range. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is extremely fucking bullish. This next run for Bitcoin, let's say pretty conservatively $120,000 to $150,000, I think, is what we're going to get to by the end of the year. On a higher perspective, I've often said $280,000, $320,000, something like this. And there's a reason for that. It's not super important to go over right now, but this may be some of the last times we ever see Bitcoin this low again. In the previous cycle, we came down a lot harder, a lot quicker, because there were a lot less sophisticated investors around that have extraordinary amounts of capital to deploy in the scariest of times. And that's important to remember, because that's when all those assets get bought up by the marketplace. So I really think I'm really starting to think that this is a rising. I guess I could just be a little bit more. You can tell how improvisational I am by the fact that I just want to like paint things on instead of actually use these horizontal lines. Okay, so again, for those of you that have been studying with us for quite some time, what is nice about this is that this is, to me, I believe, a rising gradient bottom on a larger trading range. So this actually may have been the spring, and I had mentioned that previously before. Is that, again, here you had phase A, boom. Here you had phase B and the movement into phase C. So here was the movement into phase C, was in the top of the range. And again, this is where you want to take a look at how the phase C reacts, because it usually touches the top of the trading range, which we saw right here. It was the top of the previous buying climax, and also it just happened to be the bottom of the rising gradient channel itself. This, to my mind, is extremely bullish, guys, girls, bears, bulls, everybody in the world who is interested in alpha. This, to me, looks extraordinarily bullish. And one of the fun things about this type of technical analysis, we're waiting for time, right? Time's kind of showing us the story. And right now I believe that what we're witnessing here is a much larger trading range that is going to be extraordinarily powerful once it kind of breaks this this new area of buy and sell pressure that we've currently reached. Once it goes above this, to how much lower it comes down, I'm not necessarily sure, but there are a lot more sophisticated investors the next time around, and through the years to come, that will want to absorb a lot of the suppressive sell price as it comes in, and we've seen that already. Tens of thousands of Bitcoin being sold, and it just gets absorbed. The market just absorbs it. So I think we're going to see something like this, and then boom, into 125,000. That could bring us with another quick test of around 56. And again, you're always looking at kind of a step-by-step process here. What we're trying to do is just make sure we capture the bull market, and then know that it's over at one point as well. It's kind of the two main functions of this study. So this is really exciting. This is a very positive new outlook for Bitcoin. You guys are the first I've shared it with so far. Didn't even share it in the private den yet. I wanted to go over today. It's very exciting. I think this is extraordinarily bullish. And we've been talking about some pretty outrageous prices for quite some time anyway, so it's not out of the ordinary. It's just very nice to see. Further confirmations, I guess. You're always looking for confirmation by confirmation, because anything could change. And we saw some really, really nice breakout moves to bring us where we are today with these two larger subsequent trading ranges, which again, I currently believe is actually just a rising gradient bottom, the most powerful of trading ranges. And then it's actually currently appearing, you could look at it like this too, which is again that this is phase C, and then this was the finish of D, and now we're moving into the final stages of E, technically. So we're going to want to keep a close eye on this, because I believe that this could be the last time it touches here, and it may not come back down this low again, just because of the amount of sophisticated investors that will be showing up year over year as this space grows and develops. I mean, we've got one of the most interesting financial revolutions ahead of us, and it's about participation, understanding, and right now these charts look absolutely delicious. So, I don't normally talk about some of I almost always talk about some of the philosophical aspects of wealth and money. But I think more importantly is understanding that we are a culture driven by innovation and thinking, probably not as much feeling as we should be at sometimes, but it's okay. It's just got to go with the waves of the universe while they're there. But more importantly, understanding that this is, fractal in nature. I'm just got a new book I'm excited to read by Benoit Mandelbrot called the misbehavior of markets, the fractal nature of finance, effectively. Because again, we're seeing something very similar here. And look, it looks like mountains. It's like a beautiful sunset day. You got here's the sun. It's a happy sun. A happy sun. This is an NFT, guys. We're gonna sell this NFT. It's only $8 million. Just let me know. He's got a little happy sunshine here, and then this is supposed to be a palm tree. Yeah, that's it. Bitcoin's in a very, very pretty easygoing place right now. We don't have to worry a whole lot. I'm actually not worried about downside at all yet. I've stayed bullish this entire time. That's always nice. And everyone said we're going down, which is great. I feel very confident about that so far. We're going to be looking for distribution. And that's one of the things we want to, maybe I'll kind of finalize with this mentality too, is that when we are in a bull market, first off, check your macro. Look how high up we are compared to where we were in March. We are already hitting extraordinary gains. To talk about going higher is almost stupidity. Right? Just from a regular trading perspective, even from a regular investment perspective. But you need to understand, we all need to understand some of the laws of exponential growth and the deflationary nature of technology that we're kind of running into right now, because I believe it is exponential. So when we start to get these really big highs, we want to be cautious. We want to make sure we're locking in profits. And, this is a very important thing to think about. Where do those profits go? Do they sit in US dollars? It's not even a great option, right? Because it's just a liability. So I would rather have assets. Well, what do those assets look like? Are they Bitcoin or is it just properties? Maybe you like collectors, guitars, or art. People are like all sorts of crazy things. And so how everyone manages their wealth, like my mentor's door is worth a ridiculous amount of money. Where people store their wealth is often also in abstraction, not just in the wealth layer, like a Bitcoin or something. So we'll see a lot of unique interactions between the chains as we grow. And that's why we always look at things like Ethereum and Avalanche. Just I think in general, understanding that the social contract layer is a very important part of the monetary layer. People are like, oh, Bitcoin solved everything. It does it because if you fix the money. Well, not necessarily, guys. I mean, we have a social contract layer that sounds like a conversation from a pretty privileged country, to tell you the truth. If you ever, I've had the privilege, and maybe that's also why I somehow recognized that it was a privilege to grow up in a country that wasn't under war or in combat during my lifetime, or the wars that we had supposedly fought in were overseas and had nothing. I grew up in Canada, right? So particularly, I guess the point is understanding that the social contract layer is not always held in place by money. It's held in place by a lot more abstractions in the way we can have our legal conversations and our international conversations. And this technology has a real opportunity to help curate a new way to do that, from voting to identity, travel, a bunch of things, money. Better for worse, this is the direction we're going down, ladies and gentlemen. So we keep an eye on things like Ethereum, because I believe that they are much closer, these kind of smart contracts, to social contract layer solutions. We've seen a very, very similar inverse head and shoulders that we saw. Again, just on these small time frames, we don't usually like pattern trading, but when you're looking at reaccumulation patterns, right after basically what would be a decline, so we often look at these as a reaccumulation after decline, is just, at least in these smaller time frames of the 6 hour, only bullish for a moment. Then we're likely going to see what's hopefully going to be a new reaccumulation here. But we may, we're going to have to want to keep a good eye on it. Again, currently the supply signature looks positive. There doesn't look anything to be worried about. Our shakeout was nice. We haven't seen a spring yet. But the fact that this much supply right now has only moved us down a few percent, still fairly positive. I'm not sure how I feel about Ethereum through the next 2 cycles. I'm not sure it will be able to hold. Just from a venture capital perspective, I'm being honest with myself. I'm not married to anything here. So I'm also interested in things like Avalanche, who have what I believe, or at least from what I've read, some fairly revolutionary style of consensus algorithms by using directed acyclic graphs and multiple chains to achieve consensus, and from what I can tell, also a higher level of security, even with what ETH2 is implementing. Again, Ethereum and Vitalik, I respect and admire. I love the idea that Vitalik often focuses on the tragedy of the commons. I also very much so like Cardano's Charles Hoskinson and his interest in helping the world as well. So I believe in general we've got some great visionaries at the table. So try to invest in that. Emin is another one. If you check out his work, his conversations, I think it's important to understand that from a venture capital perspective, we're using technical analysis so we can create secondary entries and take profits as the market comes closer to an end. But layering it with deeper dive research is one of the parts we're going to start leaning into. So also, if you go to arcanebear.com, although it is not totally ready yet, one of the diseases and the problems with the early stage investors, they are over emotional in their trading, and they lack the education to make proper investments and what style and what's maybe even best suits them. Because everyone's different. Everyone's what they would like to achieve is different. But one good thing you can rely on is that most people want to get rich quickly, and that's often how you lose money quickly as well. So keep that in mind. And the best way to cure that is to grow a group, join a community of like-minded individuals. So we created a mastermind group at the Arcane Bear. So if you consider yourself adventurous and like trying new things, go to www.arcanebear.com/private in the links down below and join us. But for now, we are actually going to be giving away a bunch of our research. For now, this is as far as we've gotten because, got to build stuff, but you can see our portfolio. So Avalanche is one that I've now moved to the top. We've had Matic and Fetch in our bucket for quite some time. FTX is new. WooTrade is new, although I want to separate this because we're going to likely do a tertiary research, and then we'll have our portfolio section separate, just so there is more content from here. Again, you'll be able to click in. You'll be able to go through some of the things that I think are important and interesting. We generally will have the price of the token involved, but also what the companies are doing here. You see FTX is currently burning $2 million worth of token. And they do this frequently. They also have a few cool launch pads. So for traders, by traders, they've got a really unique, what is this? They just added instant deposits through PayPal. Right? These are pretty advanced features for a platform. So our treasury investments will be made here, and then there'll be a private section where we go much deeper into funding, token rates, etc., deeper dives into the team, and potentially, if we're early enough, the seed stage rounds when they're available. That's kind of the goal, hopefully, is to get in real early when it does happen. We've had that opportunity before, and that's kind of my favorite sentiment. So we're going to have our free research and then our kind of closed backdoor research. Yes, because I believe it's important. And what we were looking at, Avalanche. We didn't get too in depth in our Avalanche writing at this moment, but I do share some of my thoughts. Well, I'll be adding more as we go forward here, but. Fundamentally, from a venture capital perspective, I've learned very clearly that I don't know the future, so I don't try to predict it. But I definitely make broad spectrum investments now because of it. It just is a smarter way to go, and there's a lot of fun ways to do that. Okay, what was the next thing? Oh yeah, there are other big players here that are interesting, and I'm keeping a close eye on. So, Link here, we saw again a primary. This does not look great for Link, technically speaking. Like, I'm a little worried about Link right here. This could be a head and shoulders. Now, I'm not convinced yet, but it doesn't look great for Link at this particular moment. Again, I don't want to rush to conclusions, but please remember that reaccumulation and distribution look identical until the very last moment when it does something like this. And then it's done. And these are hopefully your exit points, effectively, is when it doesn't close back above. So keeping a close eye on Link, although I do believe it is an industry leader, I'm not sure if they'll be able to maintain that sway. I'm not technically savvy enough to know that, so don't quote me on it. I'm just making some conjecture based off this current trend. And even still, what we might see is that it's a reaccumulation after decline, and we've seen that with Link in previous times as well, where you see these reaccumulation after decline breakdowns. So here is the top of the box, here was the bottom of the box, here was your first automatic rally, and then it created an entirely new trading range. So it's been quite volatile, most likely because it's full of retail investors, or it's full of less sophisticated well, it's not even true anymore, because everyone has access to YouTube. A lot of you are significantly more sophisticated than we all used to be 10 years ago, because we can literally all go type in anything, download thousands of ebooks for free to our iPads and study an enormous amount. So I think even the retail investor now is significantly more sophisticated and able to accomplish way more than they used to as well, which is quite fun. So FTT was a token that we took a position in. I posted this in the private den. My entries are around $32. I like it because I'm currently starting to manage more of our funds. At least the treasury for the Bears funds are managed on FTX currently. So check out FTX by going to arcanebear.com/FTX. The only reason I never really shilled the Binance links, but I like FTX. So I want to give them a shout out, not just because we get referral signups if you do that, which is great, but I actually like their product. I think it's quite advanced. I know it doesn't work for United States citizens, but I do believe that I do believe that it's a really valuable potential for fund management, and I think that's kind of the direction that they're going. And Sam's a freaking genius too, so I wanted to be a part of that. I get discounts for fees and stuff like this because I hold the token and stake it there too. Currently getting like 20% APY on USDT stablecoins staked there. 20% on USDT stablecoins staked in FTX right now. That's crazy. That's like significantly higher than BlockFi, right? So sign up for ftx.com or arcanebear.com/FTX. Try them out. They're great. Not a paid spot. I just love them. Seriously. Okay. So if they did pay me, I'd tell you guys. I don't really care. If they're going to pay me, that'd be amazing. FTX, pay me. I'll still tell you people how awesome I think your product is. Anyways, beautiful cup and handle here on I was going to say Kava. I wish it was Kiva, but Kiva's not currently evaluated at this market cap. Nice cup and handle here. And we're just retesting the top of the trading range now. And we're getting a little bit of the depth, which is nice. This is always usually one of the parts that scares people out, because it'll come back down lower, and we often think that the cup becomes invalidated. And it's usually one of two things. Number one, we could chalk it up to Kava. Kava may even be doing this. Kava? I don't know. You guys can correct me or not. I don't care. Doesn't even matter, does it? Okay, so we could maybe make some potential conjecture here. And again, I'm just throwing this out there. I'm not entirely sure yet that we could be. And again, we've looked for some of these patterns rising right out of the middle of the spring, effectively, and these rising gradients. We're in a very bullish potential setup for Kava, not just from the nice cup and handle here, but from the other secondary portions, which we saw our first accumulation box down at the bottom. We're now seeing a much bigger range form that you could calculate as this, just as we did with Bitcoin when we were charting. We've been charting Bitcoin pretty much every day since the bull market started, but the all-time high became a kind of a new trading range, and that happened in 2013-14 to 2017 as well. So you can see a kind of repeating pattern here for Bitcoin, and I think this is what's happening in Kava, is that you had a trading range down here with your spring, like this would be phase C, and now you're seeing, okay, well, not just that, you actually have phase A for a much larger trading range, and then potentially phase C pretty much in the exact same space, and now you're watching phase E of a much larger trading range that kind of takes place. So we're going to want to keep a close eye on that, because it's not guaranteed, and again, we're already high up. This has already been a great entry for us. But I do believe with what we see here, this rising megaphone pattern, a much larger trading range, that Kava is going to do well. So yeah, our deep dive research will be on the site. Band, looking very similar as well. Now, one of the downsides is when I start to see a lot of similarities, it worries me. I'm like, oh no, am I getting tricked? Is the market fucking with me right now? Like, is it trying to make me think everything's bullish, and it's not? That's always a good question to ask yourself. You don't want to just lean totally into a confirmation bias. But no, I actually believe that this is what we're witnessing is a very, very, very bullish cycle for the rest of the DeFi sector. I think a lot of big players recognize it. Just the ability, again, through FTX to be able to get 20% on your staked tokens because of the general trading? What about if you did that at scale for everybody? That's fucking amazing. So there's a lot of potential in the DeFi space. I think that a lot of smart people have caught on to already. And it's going to continue to bring in both yield and funding. So to me, it looks like, again, we had our primary trading range here. We had our first SOS, our backup phase, our secondary SOS and LPS phase. And I believe we're going to get the third, the fourth, and then it's going to go kaboom. And then we're going to get an absolute blowout of a bull market here. So I've talked about face melting, and I think a lot of people get extremely impatient, like with things like Ethereum, because really the downside is they weren't here when we charted our first reaccumulation trading range back in June and July in anything. And you can go back, look at our videos. If you're in our private group, go and look at all the PDFs. I specifically wrote about this moment. I specifically wrote about this secondary moment too, and I started to take bigger entries with here. This was a reaccumulation after decline. I have in the private PDF 382 to 404 entries right there. Why? Because we saw this coming. We knew this was going to happen. And the higher we get up here, the volatility is meant to like kind of bore people and confuse them and scare them out of their positions, so we can buy it back lower from them quite often. And that's kind of how the markets kind of prey on human greed and fear effectively. I make it sound, it's extremely impersonal, but it's just what the markets do. And the markets aren't necessarily controlled by any one particular person. So let's see. And MTA also again appears, but maybe I'm just trying to see. It's like a ink blot. Maybe I'm just confused, right? But I think we had a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, a 5. We'll need another one. MTA is probably a little bit further away, but it depends if it holds above 4.9 next. So I'm starting to see a few bullish setups. Very excited about that. Anyways, thank you guys all for joining us today. I do see that there are 478 of you online right now. Please give us a thumbs up if you like this content. Remember to follow us down below at, what is this? Twitter, LinkedIn, boom, Arcane Bear on Instagram, and where we already are right now, Arcane Bear on YouTube. Yesterday was weird. Lost like $60,000 because someone hacked Roll. And that sucks. I could have built an orphanage. I feel bad about that. Hopefully next time we'll just do that instead. Let's see. A few of you guys have questions. I'll make a whole video about that, by the way, because I'm sure you guys all want to know. Let's see here. Teddy Ruxpin says trying to FUD me out of my link. No, I'm making a clear assertion that it's showing weakness right now. So I just, here's the thing, right? From the investment perspective, I'm not married to something. So when the schematics change, I change. That's an important function to take into account. I think a lot of the times, because it works, and it should, especially if you're new to investing, you should just focus on accumulation. You should almost never sell, basically, especially the first 2 or 3 years. Once you get better, you can allocate risk and manage a more diverse and eclectic portfolio. But when you're just starting, you should basically just accumulate. It'll work out for you really well. And then study like a madman. So I just keep studying. The bull market is doing really well right now, but we are in the middle of it. Basta Behil says, hey, Tio, I am asked about Cardano. I can't easily find the Wyckoff trading ranges. I looked at it earlier. It might be in distribution. I don't want to take a look at too many more charts today. Nick Jensen says, Tio, do you see any potential with Bittorrent? Not necessarily. I try to focus on very specific forms of technology that I can clearly totally not understand. See how nonsensical I had to be just to express that idea? No, look. I'm not super. Let's not be mean to myself here. I'm good at a few things, but there's an enormous amount of stuff clearly that I don't know about. So what I try to do is conceptually invest in this kind of band, or this hue of ideas that I'm first off I think probably more importantly, conceptually interested in. Bittorrent file sharing, some of this other stuff is interesting to me, but I'm not clearly interested in it. Even from the fact that I play music, and I make art, I like things like NFTs. I like where some of this content distribution and creation between the artists and the community is going, but I'm not. Yeah. I just, with things like Bittorrent, it's just not my lane, I guess. I don't really have, I don't know. It's a really long-winded way to say, I don't fucking know. Let's see. Duncan Voss says, to be adaptable is to ride the wave when it comes. Yes, I agree. Thoughts on Matic? Yes, I love Matic. It's been in our portfolio for 2 years. Have you got any thoughts on FTM? I don't know what FTM is, but I like FTX. Go to arcanebear.com/FTX. Tio, how are the waves? They're great, although I haven't jumped in this surf. Was at the waterfalls the other day. Maybe I'll even post that video. It's super sensuous, though. I don't know. We'll try it out. A Tio short, potentially. Limitless Blessing says, I came in late. What did you say about it being too late to buy Bitcoin? I think primarily the best way to explain this, and it's a great question because I didn't go into it too early. It's never too late to buy Bitcoin, and in fact you should live by that modality. It's never too late to invest. It's also never too early to invest. Just doing it, just practicing that frequency of repetition, that rhythmic entry into the markets will be where your success is based from. I think fundamentally that's with anything. Balancer is the one, another one we added to our portfolio recently. Although I have not been sharing those charts. Again, if you look, a lot of that content will be produced in the coming month. Again, we said this is a product we had talked about adding for a while, and I told everyone around Q2. So we're almost there. We're almost there, guys. There's a lot going on. I apologize. I'm trying to do too much probably too. So apparently I'm going to not always do that. Chantilla says, Arcane Bear, I'm holding 10 Litecoin. Would it be smarter to trade them for Bitcoin at the moment? Not married to Litecoin, of course. Chantilla, see, the problem is what you should be doing is just focusing on having more of all of the things. Like, why be like, oh, I just need more of this one thing? Why not just have more of all the things? And this is where people kind of break the mentality because they want to trade their way into more of all of the things when it's easier to just go to work, your regular job where you are right now that you've been generating revenue with, hopefully, or that you hope to. Because in investments, to get wealthy are usually a slow process. Sometimes you can outpace those, and there is that opportunity here, but you want to focus on the strategy that you know is always going to work, and this is it. Just keep accumulating to start off with. Your first 3 years as an investor should basically just be that. This is where the word hodl and buy the dip come from, but buying the dip on the downside can be extraordinarily annoying. It usually drags people out. They usually get lost in the bear market, and they don't actually buy more to round out a better price overall on a day-over-day buying schedule, and basically ignore the price. So there's that. Just focus on accumulation more than trading necessarily, because it sounds like you're new still. Trading should be for you're a bit more advanced, or you want to study to advance quickly enough to be able to take advantage of some of the small transitions. But even still, the likelihood that you get it right to very high degrees when you're trading frequently is low, when you can actually just make a lot of small investments, wait, and then usually be verified throughout the bull market if you're patient, to some degree or another, right? Synops says, when taking profits from Bitcoin to put it where stable fiat, because I'm managing funds on FTX now for the treasury, I like having USDT stablecoin, and I actually often use perpetuals to basket the positions that I'm interested in. Costs a little bit more, but it's a little bit easier to manage the collateral layer and I know that a lot of these I'm only short. I mean, the bull market may end all the positions for me. I'm not entirely sure yet. I've been at this for a while. I don't mind being extremely pragmatic in the moment, and if I feel like doing it and it says be sharp, then I will. But I usually try to decide those things as a strategy when it's time to do it, not before, because I actually don't know where we are yet. I think, again, like 12/16 the way through the bull market. So do you trade on Binance? No, I do not. I trade on arcanebear.com/FTX for the best trading platform you've ever used. Seriously though, 20% on USDT stablecoins right now. That's ridiculous. I don't know. Maybe I'm running into the same problem I did with losing the 60 grand for roll. Was a third-party risk. There is third-party risk. Make sure you're using two-factor authentication. You've got whitelist addresses. If you're managing significant capital, try to make sure it's insured to some degree. It all depends on what you're doing and the level to which you're doing it. Okay. Thank you, guys. Give us a thumbs up. Duncan actually says, because of you, I add black pepper to my turmeric tea. Oh, yeah. There you go. I love it. That's important. The piperlidine in the black pepper is extremely important. You need that. You need the black pepper. Anyways, thank you guys for the support. For those of you that are in the private den, we're going to have another discussion about the hack. So join us for that probably this evening. We got an idea. Maybe we'll try to lean into. Might be fun for the community too. So we'll try it out. Anyways, give us a thumbs up if you like this content. If you're new to the channel, remember to hit subscribe and that little bell, because every time we go live, you'll be notified. I was going to try to go every day, but I clearly haven't this year, so I apologize, but I try my best. We'll be back again live on the next time we do it, which will probably be tomorrow, because I feel everything's going great so far. And let's see that. Boom.